There we go. Hmm. YouTube just asked me something weird. They said, do you want to share your screen with your audience? I don't know what that means. You want to share your screen with your audience? You mean what I'm looking at? I don't know. Because that screen sharing is what I'm on my screen. Anyway, I don't understand that. Never mind. I'm just going on about this technology stuff. I'm just trying to figure it all out. Okay. So I'm here in Vancouver, Canada. I'm always interested to hear where you're from. So where are you from? What part of the world? I would say, yeah, I know I'm on Facebook. Am I? I'm on Facebook, right? Good. Okay, because sometimes I end up on the wrong one. But I'm not scheduled tonight, so I can do whatever I want tonight. This is not one of my regularly scheduled lives. Just a sec here. Yeah, I'm late. I'm not usually on this late. 7 o'clock. So I'll be finished by 8:30. So you are doing a great job. Thank you so much, Denise. Gee, that name looks familiar. You a regular here? Manhattan. I love Manhattan. That's where I spent my 50th birthday. My daughter was, I think, 15 at the time. We went down to New York and we just walked up and down Manhattan for 8 hours a day. Didn't see one tourist attraction. I'm not into tourist attractions. Just wanted to see all the neighborhoods. Oh my God, I loved it. I could live there in a shot. I love big city life. South Dakota. Hello, South Dakota. Yes, Denise. Denise Arnold Lee. Okay, so okay, we've only got 10 people on here. Facebook's weird. People come in really slow on Facebook. Instagram, they all turn up in one go. Everyone turns up together. And TikTok's slow too. It's just weird how it happens. Can't figure it out. Okay, Denise, so thankful to find you. You've had me rethinking everything. People do that for me all the time. Like I'll look at people on YouTube and I'll just start thinking, wow, I never thought about it that way. I love learning new stuff about people and about psychology and about mostly myself and how stupid I am sometimes. I always say, I keep doing the same thing, expecting different results. Kids don't do that at all. If something isn't working, they move on. They try something that does. So we could learn a lot from kids. But yeah, I keep doing the same thing. I'm really bad for that because I guess I'm older. I'm in my 60s now. You do tend to get more set in your ways. The reason why you get more set in your ways is because you kind of know who you are. You've kind of figured yourself out. But I still like to try new things quite often. Excuse me. I like to try new things. So, okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions from Texas. Hi, Texas. I got a lot of clients in Texas. I love Texas. I had a real cowboy, not from Texas, but a real cowboy the other day. He had a cowboy hat on and everything. He called me ma'am as a client. It was great. Ma'am. Howdy, ma'am. Oh, it was so great. I loved it. Okay. Silly me. Okay. Takes me over an hour to put my 2-year-old to bed. Trying not to get frustrated, but boy, is it hard. Yeah, it is. So he's 2. Check out my bedtime battles course. It teaches you how to get them in bed and how to keep them in bed. It's a whole system. The hard part is keeping them in bed. And you just basically keep putting them back to bed, putting them back to bed, putting them back to bed. You don't talk at them or talk to them or look at them. You just walk them calmly as anything into bed. They're going to be kicking and screaming. I don't care. Just one body part has to touch that mattress. They'll get up and run for the door. Stop them before they get out and put them back in bed. Your arms are going to be very sore by the end of it. And the bigger the scene, the bigger the lesson. Everyone's afraid of a scene. Parents are so terrified of fit scenes and tantrums. They're gold. That's where all the lessons are. If you're afraid of a fit or a scene or a tantrum, your kids are in charge. I guarantee it. And they know it too. So I often tell this story. I was asked to work with this 8-year-old boy, and he was a handful, of course. I never got an easy one to work with. And it was one, no one's ever said, here's an easy one, Lisa. They all went, good luck with this one. I got all the challenging kids. Anyway, so he said to me, I'd said no to him. He asked for something, which was ridiculous. And I said, no, you can't have that. We're going to get to work here. So we're working on schoolwork or something. And he said to me, if you don't give me what I want, I'm going to have a fit. And I said, bring it on. Just really calmly. And he never did. He looked at me like, ooh, she knows what she's doing. So yeah, I have no fear of a fit or a scene or a tantrum because there's a lesson attached to each one of those if you're a calm leader and you stay calm and you don't let them win. There's a lesson behind every fit, scene, or a tantrum. So to me, that's an opportunity to exercise my leadership. That's why I invite them. I'm like, yeah, have one. Sure, I'm waiting. Bring it on. Good luck with that. I don't say that. That's what I'm thinking. Someone said, I don't understand. It's in blue. Before I hire you. What does that mean? It's in blue, but it's not with anyone. Do you guys know what I don't even know what I'm looking at here. Sorry. Another Texas. I love Texas. I got to get to Austin one day. Actually, I don't just want to go to Austin. I want to do Austin, Dallas, and Houston. Actually, I just probably like to rent a home, like a mobile home, and drive all around Texas. Just fascinates me. It's gigantic, and there's so many different places to visit there. I'm going to get to Texas one day. I did have a layover there once, but just at the airport. So love learning new techniques as well. There's a whole bunch of stuff I hate learning. I hate business stuff, like all the back end of business stuff. I hate all that stuff. But I love learning about psychology, people, body language, kids. Like, I love all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's what I enjoy. Trying to figure people out. From New Zealand. Hi, New Zealand. I don't recognize that name. Jessica Diana. We used to ski in Queenstown. We lived in Australia for 20 years. That's where my kids were born and raised. And so we used to ski in Queenstown. Oh, it was gorgeous. I loved it. Loved it. That was the first time my kids ever saw snow. Now I'm here in Vancouver, Canada. I have a newborn, so trying to hold one, but the other to bed is tough. Yeah, I would say the most challenging clients I get in coaching, and people find this hard to believe, but I work with really hardcore, serious life and death stuff with teenagers and abused children and all that. They're not I know how to handle that. It's when I get a client and it's a mom with a newborn and a toddler. Do you know why that's so hard for me? Because what am I supposed to tell her? Rip the baby off your boob and go chase the toddler. Like, you're stuck. It's physically impossible to follow through with a lot of stuff I recommend. So you're just gonna have to wait it out. It's just a rough time. Yeah. Yeah, and then often too, the mom will have postpartum depression, so I have to take that into. You think I'm going to tell her to do all this difficult stuff when she's dealing with her own mental health? So that's my most challenging client, because I have to hold back, and that's hard for me to do. So, oh, there we go. I see. I don't know why that came up. Before I hire you for coaching, should I start with behavior board and watch your courses first? No. If you know you're going to hire me for coaching, don't do anything first, because coaching is quite different from everything else because it's personal. I'll get to know you, and I kind of cater to your strengths and weaknesses. So yeah, do not do the behavior board on your own if you're going to hire me. But the boot camp might be all you need. Depends on, are you in the red zone, like really struggling with stuff, or do you really want my one-on-one attention too? And coaching is different from everything else because it's personal. It's catered to you and your needs. I often get families who hire me, like sisters will hire me with their own individual families, because they'll say, oh, I'm working with this woman, you should hire her. And they often say, well, you got a totally different Lisa from the one I have. But that's because I'm catering to their individual needs and wants and, strengths and weaknesses. So coaching is very different. But if you've got a 3 to 12-year-old, that boot camp course might be all you need. If you're just dealing with the normal stuff that most families deal with, that would probably be all you need. But if you want the personal attention, and if you're dealing with something if you're really struggling, you're really at your wit's end, that would be coaching. Plus, I won't be coaching forever because I'm getting older. Probably another maybe year or two, I'll be coaching. Maybe longer, I don't know. But maybe another year or two, I might stop coaching. Just because I'm getting older, right? So everyone's getting older. Stupid thing to say, Lisa. But yeah, I'm in my 60s now, so. I'm having a hard time finding a consequence for 3-year-old after throwing toys behind couch. Yeah, okay, so they're throwing toys. I'm going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Even though a 3-year-old is not really a toddler in my mind, it's not 3 tips, it's 5 tips for parenting toddlers. I'm going to read that out in a minute. So I would put down on the behavior board, no throwing toys behind the couch. If they do, then I would put down, you have to help do a chore or something. Anyway, check out the behavior board. That's completely free. And the boot camp course goes from 3 to 12 years old, because I know that they are very different. A 3-year-old's nothing like a 12-year-old, but your parenting is very similar. That's when you're at the height of your leadership. They want to please you. You're a really calm leader. You're fun, and they look up to you. You're like a mentor. You're a friend. You're all that. You're also, you deal with bad behavior too, but that's a small part of it. But yeah, check out that course. But anyway, I'm just going to read out my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Toddlers to me are 16 to 35 months. Just in my mind, no one else told me that. I just decided. That's what a toddler is. And then 3 and 4-year-old to me is a preschooler. 5 to 8 is a child, school age child. 9 to 12 is a tween or a preteen, and then 13 plus is a teenager. That's the way I do it. Anyway, and then 15 months and under is a baby. It's just the way I do it. Okay. Because your parenting style is different, sort of with a couple of those, but not the 3 to 12-year-olds. Tweens, you parent very similar to a 3-year-old, believe it or not. Okay. These are my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1, child-proof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is you set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is when you want to connect with a toddler, you do so in their world. Watch how they play and join in. You don't expect them to find their inner adult and go to the nail salon with you. It's okay to do that once in a while, but that's not how you bond with them. Enter their world. They start to look at you differently. They just do. Okay. Number 4 is it's very similar. When you're disciplining them, you also enter their world. They're not about words. They're not about these mini therapy sessions discussing all their big feelings and big emotions. That's garbage. It's so ridiculous. That was invented for the mom. Use your words. Let's talk about your big feelings. This is so stupid. Anyway, so they're all about actions. So you use consistent corrective actions with toddlers. Okay. That is their world. That's what they understand. And they're going to respect you more for that also. And number 5 is stop trying to figure them out. Toddlers are not figure-outable. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed in here, okay? Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years and for 1 year you were a potato laying on a mattress. So that's my 5 top tips for parenting toddlers. I'm going to read out, I don't know if you have teenagers, but they're my favorite age. And sometimes parents of teenagers are watching, but they're quiet because they think it's all about toddlers. My specialty is teenagers. They're my favorite age, but no one ever asks about them. So, but I'm going to read it out anyway, because one day you're all going to have teenagers. Okay, so my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. Number 1 is you listen to understand and show empathy. You don't listen to gather information to lecture with, or they will shut you out. The best way to get them to talk to you is to listen and then shut up. Just sit there. And if they want your advice, they'll ask for it. And even if they ask for it, I still wouldn't give it. I'd say, well, I don't know. What do you think you should do? Get them to problem solve. Anyway, so that's number 1, listen to understand and show empathy. Number 2 is you negotiate pretty much everything. If you like something like this, say, look, I want your dirty clothes in the hamper from now on. What do you want from me? It's not a blanket statement. You don't do it with everything, but you do it with as much as possible. It's showing respect to get it. Number 3 is don't sweat the small stuff with teenagers. Save your energy for the big stuff if you even need it. Don't try and micromanage a teenager. They will shut you out. Again, they don't want to be micromanaged. Nobody does. Okay? So let the small stuff go. Let's say they did something stupid. You got a teenager who did something stupid. I would do this with pretty much any age, past the age of about 4 or 5. They do something really dumb. I'd say, and it's not a big deal. I'd say, well, that was stupid. You want to hear what I did when I was your age? Like, it's okay. And then laugh it off. Okay. They're allowed to make mistakes. Bad behavior is different, but if they just do something stupid. Okay. Someone said, Doris said, sounds like she might want to hire you for help. Who was that? I don't know. If anyone does want to hire me, go on the link above. You can get the free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course from 3 to 12 years old. Or if you want the next level, the top level, you have to hire me for coaching. That's one-on-one. It's all done on Zoom. It doesn't matter where you are. As long as you can speak English, then we can work together because I can't speak any other languages. I can barely handle English. One language is plenty for this old gal. Okay. I'm outnumbered with 5 kids. I think the biggest family I ever had 8 kids. And I don't remember, but I think it was a single mom too. Anyway, and they were all like one family. They weren't mixed family. It was just a lot of kids. And I remember all we did, she wanted me to deal with bad behavior. And I said, that will come later. Right now, we had to set up systems. We had systems for bedtime, mealtime, school morning routines. We had routines and systems and charts. So we got really organized. Then we could start to deal with the behavior. It sort of started taking care of itself once we got these systems going, though. But that was a lot of work. 8 kids. I could have been more, but I have it in my head. It was 8. It was a long time ago. Teenagers, very different. Yeah, they're my favorite age because when you know how to get respect, like you give respect to get it, when you know how to get respect with a teenager, they're actually a lot of fun because they're more on your level. Like you can talk to them like they're buddies, like because they understand so much more. They're just that much more mature. But yeah, they're my favorite age by far. And also, I used to mentor troubled teens, and I would say they taught me more about life, myself, and kids than anyone. Yeah, they were. I got some training, but I didn't use any of it. I knew I was going to figure it out on my own. I have my own style, right? So that I'll figure it out, and I did. And I realized really early on never to talk about what they did wrong, but to focus on something that I liked and bring that out. I used humor. I was always trying to bond with them. That was what I did with all ages, though. It wasn't about discipline. It was about connecting and bonding with them. When they like themselves when they're with you, they want to please you. It's a natural instinct. Have you ever been with anyone who makes you feel like $1,000,000? Would you ever be rude to them? Doesn't make any sense, does it? I won't say what I said once, but someone said to me on here, well, I have a mentor and I'm rude to them, and I won't tell you what I told that person. Well, there's no hope for you. It's funny. Okay, my 13-year-old is bossing my younger kids around and name calling. What should I do? Well, that says to me you're not a leader. I don't have a course for teenagers. You'd have to hire me if you want to work with me. But basically, you're not a leader. Work on your leadership skills. So I already mentioned my top 3 tips for parenting teenagers. So I'm going to sneeze. Try and blow my nose. I just feel like I got a sneeze coming on. That's why I keep wiping my nose. Oh, itchy. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway. So yeah, it says to me, it's a bit of a tell. If you've got a teenager telling the younger ones what to do, it says that they think they're in charge. So, because they know you're not, or they're pretty sure you're not. Am I right about that? So yeah, just look at the 3 top tips for parenting teenagers. Listen to understand and show empathy, negotiate pretty much everything. Don't sweat the small stuff, and use that behavior board. Get that behavior board going. That's completely free. And you never put attitude on there. A lot of parents are they make this huge mistake with teenagers. Stop being snotty. Watch how you talk to me. You respect me. They put attitude on that. That's ridiculous. You put very impersonal actions on the behavior board. Because if you're going to put anything on there that's going to accelerate the negativity, yeah, it's not going to work. So just put something on there like put your dirty dishes in the sink when you're done, or something like that. Something impersonal and not something you fight about all the time. If you're working with me, I don't even do that if we're working together. I don't start with the accelerators in the first week. Not with teenagers. Got to work on your bond first. You're connecting. This was really cute. I did a video. I don't always get time to do this, but I went through my comments today on Instagram. And I did a video talking about how I connected with my 15-year-old son. Because all of a sudden he was turning into a man overnight, and we had nothing in common. So we used to be like best buddies. He was like my girlfriend, right? And then all of a sudden he's turning into a man. So he just wanted to listen to heavy metal music, play video games, the PlayStation game. So I didn't do any of that. So I talked about how I connected with him. And these people all came out and they said, I did the same thing, or I'm going to do that. It was one of those videos you do. And I remember when I was reading the comments, I thought, oh, that's going to really improve some lives. I really thought it was just, you can look it up. It's on Instagram. And it's just how to connect with a teenager or something like that. How to get a teenager to talk to you or something like that. And but I thought, yeah, that's one of those videos. I thought, yeah, that's going to change some lives, because connecting with it, it's not about disciplining teenagers. It's not about getting them to listen to you. It's about connecting with them in their world. You don't go diving into it. You wait till you're invited. There's a whole way of doing it. Anyway, it's on Instagram. It could be on here too. I don't do my social media, so I don't know. I mean, I'm the one talking, but I don't place it. I don't post it. That's it. Place it? What a dope. I don't place my social media. Okay. What does that look like for leadership with kids? Well, leadership skills, it's a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of stuff involved in it. That's why I talk about it every day. But anyway, you can check out my behavior board. It's kind of the first step in it. And you'll notice that your consequence is bonding with the kids. So if you break the rule, because you're on that behavior board too, if you break the rule, you have to do something fun with the kids, play hide and seek or something. So yeah, check out the behavior board. That's part of leadership. Leadership to me is about giving respect to get it. And being fun. Someone said, I'm overwhelmed by your kids. Or did I say something that didn't make any sense? Oh, sorry. There we go. Okay, for toddlers who hit their friends for a toy they want, and you ask them to help their friend feel better. And you ask them to help their friend feel better? Why? Why? And you model an example for them, but they just, no, I don't do any of that. No, I don't do any of that. Okay. So hitting, I actually have a mini course on that for toddlers who hit. They're not about these mini therapy sessions discussing feelings. No, that's not for them. So anyway, that's for you. Makes sense to you, but not to them. Anyway, I could tell you story after story about that one, but anyway, I won't bother. I won't drive that point home too much. But yeah, they're not about words, they're about actions. So if they hit their friend, you say no, and you remove the toy from them, and then you give it back to the friend, and you restrain your child from not going over and grabbing that toy again. You just do that repeatedly because they learn through repetition. So it's consistent corrective actions. I do have a mini course on toddlers who hit, and you might want to check that out. Okay, you're not going to like my answer here, Ashley. I struggle with my 4-year-old listening. Blatantly just either ignores me or doesn't listen. Okay, he's 4 years old. It's a tell. It means you're not a leader. It means he doesn't respect you. That, you're trying to fix him, but you've got to fix and teach yourself here. I don't fix kids. I teach parents. So you got to set yourself up as a leader. Kids don't come with instruction manuals. That's what I'm here for. If you don't like what I'm saying, move on to someone else that makes sense to you, because you got to start taking action. You got to do something. Don't just think about it. Do it. Start with the behavior board, and that's how you first start getting respect, because you're on there too. You got to give respect to get it. You can't just expect stuff from your kids. You got to show them, you got to show them, hey, I'm accountable, so you are too. The behavior board's completely free. Or he's 4 years old. You could get the boot camp course if you're interested in that. That goes into more detail, obviously. That's 5 weeks to get respect. Sorry, I'm just organizing my notes here. Sorry, my computer's really slow. I got so much going on here. It slows down. There we go. Okay. What was I going to read? I wanted to read something to you guys. Okay. This is interesting, and it's something I've been really driving home a lot lately because I think it's so important. Most parents overpraise and underplay. Praise is okay, but it doesn't give your kids high self-esteem. It doesn't make them feel loved. It doesn't even make them feel good about themselves. Playing with them, play and fun is their love language, not praise. You're wonderful. You're so special. I just think you're perfect. Everybody loves you. You're absolutely wonderful. No, I can't play. I'm busy doing the dishes. Would they rather that, or would they rather, oh, you're playing blocks, say, and then you scoot down the floor and play blocks with them? What do you think would make them feel more special, more valued, more loved? Which one? All that praise or actually playing with them? Think about it. Parents overpraise and underplay. Playing is everything with little kids. It's everything. They just want you on the ground. That was my superpower with kids. I played with them. When I was babysitting, I never watched TV. I was playing with those kids. That's how I got respect. I bonded with them. I connected with them in their world. I watched how they played and I joined in. You know what's funny though, is I remember I used to watch kids before, like I'd watch what they were doing. They all play a little bit differently. So you got to pick up on their style, what they like. And when they feel like you really get what they're doing, they look at you, you become like a mentor. They just look at you differently. Think about it. If you're doing something that's really personal and in your own little world, and someone comes along and says, hey, I do that too. Look, how would that make you feel? Someone really enters your world, your personal world. You're doing something that you enjoy, that you love, and all of a sudden they join in. How does that make you feel? Does it make you feel special? Does it make you happy? You feel good about, you feel valued? That's what you're doing for your kids when you play with them in their world. Watch how they play and join in. Yeah, parents overpraise these days. It's all those mini therapy sessions that are killing parenting. The pleaser parent style, it's a disaster. I saw that coming 30, 40 years ago. Started with the participation awards. Participation awards. You get an award for turning up. How stupid is that? The dumbest thing you ever heard of? I said, as soon as I saw that coming, I thought, oh, self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. That's what you're raising. Everyone's a victim these days. It's all this woke stuff. This confirmation bias proving everyone's you're a victim, and it's from that pleaser parent style. That's where it comes from. Oh, and don't ask me about books or other styles. All I know is the old-fashioned authority style parenting and the pleaser parent style. There's a whole bunch of different methods under both of those, but they're so opposites. The old-fashioned authority style parenting, they're more dictators, my way or the highway. It's not a bad way to parent. Like, it got good results in the end, but it built resentment in the teen years. But then the kids grew up and appreciated what their parents did for them. The pleaser parent style builds resentment all throughout the years, and their kids never respect them, and they wipe their feet all over them. They treat their parents like dish rags because their parents are just bending over backwards trying to please them. Heaven forbid they should be upset. Heaven forbid you should say the word no. Oh, if a teacher looks at them the wrong way, you go in there and complain. I mean, it's just ludicrous. I'm exaggerating. Yeah, I am. I'm just trying to get my point across. Okay. The other child, my 5-year-old, so this must have asked another question, will pinch, kick, and hit my 4-year-old for no reason while walking by each other. I get the idea that it's to either get my attention. I don't want to think it's intentional to hurt, but to simply make her squawk. Yeah, there's a bit more going on there. It's not just to get your attention. I really believe that children act out sometimes just to force you to become a leader. Every single troubled teen I've ever worked with has said, I wish my parents had been tougher on me growing up. They wish they'd been disciplined. They don't want to now, but they identify discipline equals love. So that's almost like your 5-year-old saying, aren't you going to handle this? That's what that's saying to me. If they're doing it all the time and you're around, it's like, aren't you going to handle me? I need a leader here. Come on, step up. That's what that says to me, just the way you worded it. So yeah, I would look at the course, the boot camp course. It teaches you how to be a leader. It's from 3 to 12 years old. Children need, crave, and want leadership. If you don't provide that for them, they're going to go searching for it elsewhere. They're going to be very vulnerable out there in the world. They're going to look for a leader. They're going to be very susceptible to peer pressure, bullying, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. They're going to go searching leadership somewhere. They're going to be just lost. Children who have a leader feel safe, and they don't tend to. They're not vulnerable. They know who they are. So yeah. I could be wrong. I don't think I am, though. That's what that says to me. It's just begging you for leadership. They all want it. Okay. This was something, I know I redacted it. I changed the wording. It was Bill Maher was talking about parenting. I know he's not a parent, but he's an observationalist, and he got it really right. But he said something like, what did I actually, it was so rude. I actually changed it too much. It doesn't even look like him anymore. But he said, we're raising a generation of wimps. When you coddle and protect your kids from everything difficult, you are raising self-entitled snowflakes with mental health issues. I came up with that part, but he called them worse than that. But anyway, so it's really true. You want to raise children who know how to problem solve. And like my kids, I used to pray that they'd get a bad teacher because I thought they're going to get bad bosses. I want them to practice on teachers. They both got the same bad teacher. Was it the same? Yeah. Anyway, it was just one of those teachers. It was a person who shouldn't have been teaching. They didn't like kids. And all the parents hated this teacher. Just should not have been teaching. And I was glad my kids got that teacher because I thought that's really good practice, how to deal with difficult people. And so I didn't want to protect them from all that stuff. It's not like they were hitting kids or anything. It's just someone who just didn't like kids. So, but I wanted my children to learn that not everyone's going to be coddling them. And certainly I'm not going to go in and save the day. That's not what I do at all. I would arm my kids with their own defenses. Like I taught my kids how to handle bullying, how to handle difficult teachers, how to handle difficult people. I never went in and tried to save the day. That's why they were bully proof, as was I. Like we just, sort of taught to think for yourself and solve your own problems. Don't go in saving your kids from life. You're just going to do them a disservice. Okay, I'm going to move over to Instagram now. And if you want to join me over there, it's Bratbusters Parenting. Otherwise, and I'm on YouTube the whole time, by the way, when I'm doing all these lives. I just continue on with YouTube throughout all the lives on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. But if you're going to be leaving me now, you just go in the link above and you can check out my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, so you can hire me for coaching. And thanks so much for watching. Happy parenting. Okay, what am I? Instagram, right? Sometimes I get them mixed up. Okay. Okay, this is from Ines Fair. You've been here before, Ines. I remember that name. My toddler, practically 3, refused to eat. This is on YouTube. Refused to eat with a fork this evening. She wanted to be fed like a baby. This ended in big crying session. Okay, she's almost 3. You know what I would do? If you're having problems with feeding a kid and they want to be hand fed, I get real stupid with it. So if I'm hand feeding a kid, this is what I would do. I'd go, oh, oops, and I'd drop it. I'd get real slow. I'd go like this and I'd go, here you go. Oh, wait a minute. Did I answer that call? Did I answer? Just get real stupid and slow. So don't let them know you're doing it on purpose, though. Just get real slow. The idea is they'll get so fed up waiting for you to do it that they'll end up feeding themselves. Give that a go. You're not going to solve it overnight, probably. It's going to be a few rough meals. That's okay. Stick with it. My 4-year-old has ODD. How do I deal with it? Well, no one's asked me that for a long time. Do you know why? Because this is how I answer. It's not a medical diagnosis. It's oppositional defiant disorder. It was made up. Doctors and pediatricians have told me this. They said it's something they made up to make moms feel better. So it's not their fault their kid is acting out. It's oppositional defiant disorder. They actually said that's what it was made for, to make the mom feel better, like it wasn't her fault. Which is interesting to me, because then you're taking all the responsibility off the parents and putting it on the kid. Well, there's nothing I can do. He's got ODD. He's going to be tearing up the classroom. There's nothing I can do. He's got ODD. It absolves them of any responsibility or any leadership. So I'm quite against it. So yeah, work on your leadership skills. All those kids I worked with had ODD, ADHD, WXYZ. They were all alphabet. I used to call them alphabet kids. And I managed to get respect with all of them. Was it them or was it me? Was it my leadership or was it their diagnoses? So yeah. Don't rely on those diagnoses to absolve yourself of responsibility. With all those kids, I only worked with those kids for like an hour a week. And if they did something under my care, under my supervision that I didn't like, I always blame myself. As a leader, that's what you do. What am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? What am I missing here? That's what I did. What am I missing here? I never blamed them, because a leader doesn't blame the kid. I blame myself. So work on I don't fix kids. I teach parenting. Kids don't come with an instruction manual. That's what I'm here for. Parenting's the hardest job in the world with the least amount of training, but everyone expects you to be an expert, especially you. Don't give up on it. Take responsibility. You got so much more power than you realize you do. From the ages of 3 to 12, you're at the height of your leadership. When you're a good leader, they're going to bend over backwards trying to please you. They're never rude to you. And you do not want obedient little soldiers. You want kids who have a voice. Believe me, if I did something my kids didn't like, I heard about it. Like that. They never held back. They had a voice, but it was mutual respect. How important is the same bedtime for a toddler? It's pretty important to have structure. We all kind of operate best with structure, even as adults. So yeah, it's pretty important. How do you feel about allowing young teenagers on social media? I'm not comfortable with it. However, some people tell me that my kids will rebel against me and not respect me because of, okay, they're going to be on it anyway. You can't avoid it. It's like the old-fashioned days, like when Elvis Presley first came out, all the parents were terrified their kids were going to be destroyed because he was moving his hips. I mean, it's kind of like that. Social media is here to stay. You just got to teach them how to use it responsibly. Also, make sure you have their passwords and say, I won't use it unless I need to. Okay. So, but yeah, teach them how to use it responsibly. There's a few, I don't want to get into that too much, social media or online safety. I've done videos on it. Actually, look it up on TikTok. I've done a video. I haven't done it in a long time. It was on online safety. So look up Bratbusters online safety. And I talk about how you keep kids safe online. I used to tell my kids, if you think you're talking to someone young, good looking, and you're chatting with someone because all you see is a picture, say, can we just have a quick video chat? And if they're not willing to do that, it's a dirty old man sitting there playing with himself. That's what I used to tell my kids. I'd always rather scare them safe. And yeah, so yeah, you got to tell them what's out there. Also, if you think you're protecting your kids from social media, they're going to go to school and do it on their friends' phones anyway. So you can't protect them from it. It's here to stay. Just teach them how to do it responsibly. It's like driving. It's terrifying, but you teach them how to drive responsibly, and then you just got to hope for the best, right? So it's not a matter of keeping them away from things you're afraid of. It's about well, age appropriate, allowing them to do the things that are out there, and just teaching them how to manage it. It's like when let's say you got a 16, and I've dealt with these families, they especially from overseas, and they have very strict religious backgrounds and cultural differences. Not differences, not for them, but for us, it's different, right? And they don't want their 16 or 18-year-old daughter to date. And puts me in such an awkward position because I have to respect their culture, but at the same time, I know she's sneaking out behind their back just from stuff they've told me. And so, yeah, it's really awkward. And my point with mentioning that is if you say no, you absolutely can't have something, they're going to want it even more. So they're not going to not do something just because you don't allow it. They're going to sneak behind your back usually. Toddler's having night terrors and now has stopped napping. He's 2.5. How do I help? Well, he might just be finished with naps. A lot of people, I just had a question today. Someone with a 4-year-old who they couldn't get their kid to have naps anymore. 4 years old. Both my kids stopped regular napping at 12 months old. They just didn't need naps anymore. So maybe he just doesn't need naps. And night terrors, I don't know if he's having just nightmares or night terrors. Night terrors are when they don't wake up effectively. So they wake up in the dream and in the nightmare and they still think they're living it. So I've talked to doctors about this, and I can't recommend this because I'm not a doctor, but they agree that, because I've asked them, I've said, is this a good thing to suggest? Because, medically, I don't know, I don't really understand what a night terror is, but I sort of get it. And I suggest to parents that use those sound machines or those galaxy lights, something that brings them back into, hey, I'm awake. You know what I'm saying? Does that kind of make sense? And doctors have actually said that they recommended that too, but who knows if you can really help that. Yeah, it's when they don't wake up from a nightmare. They think they're still living it. Yeah, maybe they just don't need naps anymore. Oh, people have asked to come in the video. I don't let people in. I only did it once on TikTok. And I have a really big following over there. And they just wanted my following. They started talking about their business. So I just said, I'm never going to do it again. And I haven't. Maybe one day I will, but I'd have to vet the people first, and it would have to be an arranged thing because there's no way I could risk that again. Yeah, they started talking about their business, and here I'm trying to help parents, and they're trying to sell their wares. I got rid of them so fast. Couldn't get my thumb up there fast enough. How to reverse my kids running over me, having a hard time. They are 10, 7, 5, 3, and 1. I would strongly recommend you take a look at the boot camp course. Okay, it's for 3 to 12 years old. The 1-year-old, they're just watching you with the older kids anyway. So there's not much you can do with a 1-year-old. They're just babies, right? So yeah, check out that boot camp course. You got all those kids. I would think that might help you. If you're really struggling, then that would be coaching. Some people do both. They want both. They want me to help them through that. They just want me to, sort of go with them. And that's whatever you want, but I would check out that boot camp course. Okay. So my 4-year-old has hyperactivity issues, getting aggressive at times, doesn't listen to instructions, tired of complaints from school. Well, the poor school, they're tired of it too, right? So yeah, look at the boot camp course because it's a leadership thing. They're hyperactive, but those are all the kids I worked with. Those are all the kids I worked with, hyperactivity, all sorts of challenges. To ADD, ADHD, WXYZ. So work on your leadership skills because at 4 years old, they're going to carry your leadership umbrella everywhere they go. So if they respect you, if they've got a leader at home, however they treat that leader, they tend to their self-esteem skyrockets when they've got a leader. So they tend to treat everyone the same way. It's just the way it is. It spreads out everywhere they go. So your leadership at home is where it all starts. I just feel like I got to sneeze. Oh, Still got some pollen up my nose or something. 2-year-old drinking but spitting anything on the table, then starts playing with the liquid. Well, I would just, as soon as they do that, I would hold the liquid, by the way. I wouldn't let them have it. And then they spit it on the table. I'd say, okay, you're all done. I'd clean them up and put them down, get them off the table. And they're just going to do stuff. They're going to do stuff over and over and over again. I'm going to read my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. I was reading the word raise in one of my comments. Okay. And the last tip is for you. Okay, these are my top 5 tips for parenting toddlers. Number 1 is childproof your home so you never have to say no. Number 2 is set up a toy rotation system so they're never bored. Number 3 is when you want to connect with a toddler, you do so in their world. Watch how they play and join in. Play like them. Don't expect them to become a little adult for you. You become a big kid with them. And number 4 is very similar. You discipline them in their world. They're not about words. They're about consistent corrective actions, and they learn through repetition. So stop with all the words and talking about big feelings and all that garbage. It's just garbage. And number 5, this is for you. Stop trying to figure them out. They're not figure-outable because they haven't formed yet. They're crazy. They might even go like this and smear poop on the wall. That's a toddler. They're just going to do crazy stuff. I always call them crazy, but it's not so much that they're crazy. They just haven't developed sanity yet. They're not there yet. They're just forming. They're brand new, fresh human beings, okay? Imagine if you've only been in the world, how can you have any concept of what's right and wrong and what to do? And everything's a sense of wonder to them. I remember this cute story. It was this woman had written this article. She was a grandmother, and she was walking her little grandson to the park. And he kept stopping and playing in puddles and picking weeds. And she kept saying, come on, we want to get to the park. By the time they got to the park, he was tired anyway. She didn't realize, live in the moment with them. Like, it was the walk that he was enjoying. The park he didn't even really enjoy. He was tired by the time he got there. He liked playing in the puddle, picking up the weeds. Like, that was his joy. So the grandmother wasn't enjoying it, but she saw the light that day. And then from then on, it was living in the moment with him. But yeah, they're just discovering the world. They're discovering everything, good and bad. Oh, I won't tell you a funny story. Oh, it involves dog poop. Never mind. I think I already just told you anyway. How do you deal with more than 3 bad behaviors at a time? Okay, that's in reference to the behavior board, because what I say is that you have 3 behavior boards by the end of 3 weeks. So every behavior board has 1 rule per family member, you included. And then, so that's week 1. The next week, there's 1 rule for everybody. So you're going to have three rules for everybody by the end of the 3rd week. So then what you're saying, I'm assuming, is what do you do when they've got 4 and 5 and 6 and 20 things they're doing wrong? The whole idea is this is all about you. It's teaching you how to be a leader. So by the end of the 3rd week, generally, if you're doing this really well and you're not like in the red zone with horrible stuff going on with the whole family and craziness, so you should start to see results. And what happens is all the other bad behavior starts melting away, because once they start respecting you, they stop doing bad behaviors, even if they're not on the behavior board. That's the idea behind it. Okay. So yeah, and parents who hire me, they always ask the same question. I usually address it before they ask, but sometimes I'll just wait and see if they ask, and they almost always do. Well, yeah, you've dealt with that 1 rule, but we've got 20 things we want to correct. I say, yeah, right? What do you want me to do about it? Like, there's nothing we can do. I would go in and address all 20 in the first day, but I'm level 10 with what I teach. I'm teaching you leadership. We only do that 1 rule at a time. If I thought you could handle dealing with all 20 things in one day, I'd do it. But you can't, because you got to learn 1 rule at a time. And then the kids start to look at you differently when they realize, hey, wait a minute, you know what you're doing. So they just start behaving differently. They start respecting you. That's the idea behind it. So yeah, you just got to, whatever you were doing before, you were messing up, you were doing whatever you did wrong before with those other behaviors, keep doing it. But that behavior board, get that right. That's the symbol of leadership. That's all you're focused on with your leadership, is that 1 behavior board. Then by week 2, you got 2 of them. The other behaviors, suffer through it, do whatever you were doing before. I don't care. But do not mess up with those behavior boards. That's your leadership. That's where you're learning. It's funny because I've been doing this now for, I think, 17 years. And the first year, I didn't have a behavior board because I've never used one. Why would I? I didn't need one. And then I thought, how am I going to teach parents? Like, I was teaching parents this, what I did. But I already knew what I was doing. Like, you don't start there. And then I developed the behavior board and I put the parents on it too, because you got to be accountable. I was trying to explain, you got to be accountable too. The kids get to punish you too if you make if you do something bad. They get to punish you, and the parents weren't getting it. And then I invented that behavior board and put the parents on it, changed everything. I haven't changed that behavior board in 16 years. I haven't needed to. It works. Uh-oh. Ooh, yeah. I like this one because it's such a simple answer, but you're not going to like this. Okay. When my 2.5-year-old throws a tantrum, I ignore him and respond when calmed. In the midst of the tantrum, if he says he wants a hug, can I hug him to help calm him faster, or only after he calms down? Only after he calms down. And even then, I don't make a big deal out of it. You completely ignore the tantrum. And I'll explain this in a minute. But anyway, so while they're having a tantrum, I'm filing my nails, but you don't go on a phone. You don't talk and get in a conversation with someone, because I think that's rude. It's important that you look like you're waiting for that tantrum to end. So you're still with them, but you're not talking to them or looking at them. So you're just filing your nails, whatever you're doing, right? Just something inane. So you're just like this waiting, and they might be, I need a hug, I need a hug. I wouldn't even look at them or anything. So then when they're all done, oh, y'all finished? Okay, let's go to the park. If they say, I want a hug, say, okay, here you go. Give them a real quick little hug. Don't go on about it, because it'll make it look like you're rewarding them, like you feel bad. You don't want to look like you feel bad for what they've just been through. It's okay. Now, this is where a lot of people get mad at me and they come after me. I love that stuff. Anyway, is when they say, you mean you're ignoring their emotions and their feelings? Aren't they going to feel horrible? If you have a child having a tantrum, and if they feel bad about themselves being ignored during a tantrum, you got bigger problems to worry about. If your child is that fragile with your parenting and they don't feel loved, that they can't handle that, you got bigger fish to fry. You might want to hire me. Because any child can handle being ignored during a crazy tantrum. If they can't, you got bigger stuff to worry about. So yeah, that's a tell. If they are truly emotionally damaged by being ignored during a tantrum, you got other stuff going on. It's not about that. It's not about the tantrum. So you're not meeting their needs if that's the case. Anyway, so you ignore the crazy and reward the calm. But I don't go on about, oh, my angel, and hug them like that afterwards, because that's like, oh, you poor angel. Looks like you pitied them. I don't pity that. Nope. Just, because I know where it's going to go. And it's going to get worse before it gets better, because they're used to you feeding the tantrum. Any attention is tantrum food. You're like fertilizing it if you give them any attention. Okay. And they're only doing it because it's a way of they know you're not going to say no. Like they know you. Like my son wouldn't have asked for a hug during a tantrum. Because it's a way of manipulating. It's a way of, they're in control, right? Well, I know she won't say no to a hug. Yeah, I wouldn't even say no. I just don't even listen to it. They get used to that, because I know that when you get good at this effective listening or effective ignoring with a tantrum, when you get good at it, you're diminishing the tantrums in duration, frequency, and intensity, which is kinder. If you keep rewarding them during the tantrum by hugging them and talking to them, they're going to get worse and last longer, which is kinder. To get rid of those tantrums quicker, or to let them last forever and feed them. No one comes up with all the hate stuff anymore. God, I had a blast with all that. When I first went on TikTok, people came after me with those ignoring tantrums. It was wonderful, because I know I'm shaking things up. Am I not shaking stuff up anymore? Or do I just get people now? Everyone else has abandoned ship. They just don't even look at me anymore. I don't know what it is. Or maybe people are respecting it more, or I'm getting more on board. I don't know which, but yeah, I miss all that. How do I transition my 2.5-year-old off a bottle? Transitions are difficult. Transitions is change. So, and we're all bad with that. We all have a problem with change, unless it's winning lotto or something, I guess, but I haven't done that, so I don't know. But yeah, you just have to pull off the Band-Aid. I did this. I'll tell you what I did with my son. It was with dummies, and I had him help me collect all the dummies. I made a big show out of it, and we put them in a little bag, and then I picked him up, and he carried the dummies. We went out in the garage, and I said, bye-bye, you're a big boy now. And I opened up the lid, and he threw them in. And then I closed the lid. Now, he knew me. He knew when I did something, it was going to happen, right? His dad might have fished them out again. He knew that. So it had to be me. And it had to be the big bin outside, because he knew nothing was going to come out of there with me. So anyway, and he never asked for one again. And he had tantrums too, but he never had a tantrum or anything, because he knew I made such a big deal out of it. Plus I replaced them with the sippy cups, I think it was. Yeah, I think I bought these little sippy cups that had straws on them, bendable straws, and he liked chewing on that. So it just, not for long, he just sort of got used to not having a dummy. But every time he would go like this looking for the dummy because he was addicted to them. He'd go like that and he'd look over at me and I'd instantly look away. I'm not getting eye contact when he's looking for a dummy. It just happened to have gone really well, which surprised me. Normally he would have had tantrums, but just pull off the Band-Aid. They just got to go. Make a big show out of it. Put them all in somewhere and put them somewhere, like maybe in your garage. And then you can put them in a bag. Like if you want to keep them, if you're going to have more kids and you want to keep the bottles, put them in a bag and then have a dummy bag that looks like it says full, and then throw that one in the garbage and put the real bottles somewhere else where he can't see. So yeah, make a show of it, and then that's it. You got to be willing to go through the fits, the scenes, and the tantrums for transitions to make a change. You're not going to change anything without the fits and the scenes and the tantrums. That's the goal. That's where they're learning. Behind every fit or a scene or a tantrum is a lesson. Anyway, I got to go on to TikTok now. If you go on the link above, you can see my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, or my I'm still talking. I say the same thing so often I forget what I'm saying. Or my big boot camp course with 3 to 12 years old, or you can hire me for coaching. It's funny, I just couldn't even remember what I was saying. Anyway, so I'm moving over to TikTok now, and I'm on YouTube the whole time. So if you want to join me over on TikTok, it's Bratbusters Parenting. Happy parenting. Bye now. It's funny, just talking to YouTube here. It was funny, I forgot what I was saying. When you say the same thing so much, you don't even hear yourself anymore. Oh, good one. Okay, this is from Creative Chaos on YouTube. 5-year-old son immediately resorts to crying, whining when something doesn't go his way. How can I improve my leadership to redirect his crying? Look at my boot camp course, or for free, you can look at the behavior board. Or if you want the top level, that's coaching one-on-one with me. It's all done on Zoom, so it doesn't matter where you live. But yeah, work on your leadership. It tends to even out their emotions. When kids have a really strong, calm leader and like a friend, a fun leader, it just calms them right down. It just does. Tends to regulate their emotions because they feel safe. Kids who are crying and whining a lot, to me, they always look scared and unsafe. Yeah, leadership makes them feel safe. They feel taken care of because you're a leader. I remember, this is a really cute story, actually. I haven't told it in a while. I was helping out. There was a bunch of us moms that went into the classroom to help out with this project day. So they split up all the kids into different groups, and all the other groups are all wild and crazy. But I got all the difficult kids because I worked with them all the time. I was always helping out in the class. So I had the most difficult kids in my group, and they were great. They were having fun. They were good. And all the other moms kept looking over, what's she doing over there? So anyway, but I had tons of experience with kids. This is what I did. So anyway, the fire alarm went. These are grade 2 kids, and it was an unplanned fire alarm. Some kid had just pulled it, scared the kids, and they all ran to me. They didn't run to the teacher. She was kind of a young new teacher, so not a real strong leader. So they didn't run to the teacher, and they didn't run to their moms. They all ran to me, and the moms were so confused. But I'm a very strong leader with kids, and I lead with fun, and it makes them feel safe. They don't like me more than their moms, but they feel safe with a leader. So that's why it tends to regulate their emotions, because they feel safe. Does that make sense? That was a question on YouTube. Okay, so if you go on the link above, you can see my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, or you can hire me for coaching. So let's get going with your parenting questions. How to teach 4 and 2-year-old brothers to play together. They always fight over toys. Well, do you get involved with play? Do you actually show them how to do it? So you're playing with them. The way that you get siblings to get along is not to do one on time with each one. That builds resentment. It's a disaster. If you have siblings who aren't getting along, you always play with them together, and you play to the weakest link. Play to the 2-year-old's level. So don't do stuff that only the 4-year-old can do. Make sure it's, and get involved. Play hide and seek, not competitive stuff, not stuff where there's a winner and a loser. Just have fun with them. Yeah. I own a child care center. Oh, I don't know anything about that. I teach parenting. I don't teach teaching, daycaring, child psychology, principling. A lot of those people are my clients, but I can't do what they do, and they struggle with parenting. By the way, a huge portion of my clients are teachers, principals, and child psychologists. It's not that they're in any worse position, but they're learners. They want to learn. They want to get it right. So they struggle just as much as anyone. Like I couldn't do their job. They're institutional based. I'm personal home based. So parenting's different from everything else. It's home based. It's personal. So yeah, whenever someone asks me about how to handle students at school, I have lots of ideas on how to do it, but it's not my lane. I don't teach that. I don't I don't teach it. How do you handle a relative who encourages bad behavior and doesn't follow your rules? It's the in-laws. Yeah, that happens a lot. I get asked that a lot. There's only one thing I can tell you to say. You say to them, when you do that with my kids, when you undermine my parenting, it makes me feel bad. That's all you can say. If they don't respect that, they're a lost cause. Just do your best. You see, if they don't respect your feelings, don't tell them what they're doing wrong. That's not your focus. Your focus is your feelings. Lead with your feelings being hurt. What can they say to that? Oh, I'm going to keep doing it because I want to keep hurting your feelings. That's all they can say. So yeah, that's all I can tell you. If they don't respect that, they're a lost cause. Nothing I can do to help. Best way to build confidence is have a leader. Confidence comes from a leader parent, because a leader parent brings out the best in kids, and you give them a voice too. So like if my kids had come to me with a problem, I would have said, well, I don't know. I said, what do you think you should do? So I always tried to make them think for themselves and problem solve and have responsibilities with chores. And if they were having problems at school, some kid was trying to bully them, I wouldn't go into school unless they were being hit. Physical stuff, you always get involved. But if they're just some kids being mean, I taught them how to handle bullies. So they became bully proof like I was. So I would never go in to save the day. I built them up to be strong. I talked to doctor. He said it was behavior. What can I do? What was behavior? I'm going to go back a little ways. My 8-year-old, is that the 8-year-old with that? Oh, okay. My 8-year-old has accidents when he's doing something he enjoys, like playing with friends, etc. And then your doctor said it's behavior. Well, yeah. I don't think it's physical. I think that lots of kids do that, by the way. They get over it. Said, I'm really bad for that. If I'm sitting talking to friends, I'll wait till my bladder is like this big, till I'm dying. So I'm like a toddler sometimes. I get really excited and I'm talking away, and I'm really bad for that. I've never actually peed myself, but maybe I should just start wearing Depends so I wouldn't even have to get up and go to the bathroom. Yeah, I was at a friend's house the other day, and as I was leaving, I said, I gotta go to the bathroom. I've been busting. And she says, well, why didn't you go? And I said, I hate going to the bathroom. She said she's the same way. So I understand that. But yeah, you just have to say to him, by the way, we're going to take a bathroom break. So you're going to have to interrupt and teach him to do that. But it's very common, by the way. But yeah, I just about do that. So I relate. And with me, it is behavior. It's not a medical issue. It is behavior with me. What are good consequences for a 3-year-old? You mentioned cleaning a window. It can be any good deed. Don't get caught up in that. It doesn't matter. It's just the action of doing a good deed. Don't worry even if they like it. They're doing a good deed. That is the lesson. You do something bad or naughty, then you do a good deed. Don't worry about what it is. I know it's natural to want to try and really overanalyze all this. If you overanalyze it, you're wasting your energy. Just check out the behavior board. It's all the detail you need in there, really. Kids having screaming tantrums at 3 and 5? Well, yeah. What's your question? By 5 years old, they should be sort of over tantrums, by the way. So I have tons of videos on tantrums. I actually have a course called Tantrum Busting. 5 years old's a little bit old for that, but they can still learn how you manage tantrums. Completely ignore them during a tantrum. There's a way of doing it, though. Should I tell the swing story? Do I feel like telling that? No. I'll tell the one where in the mall with my son. He had tantrums, my daughter didn't. They're either born to have them or they're not. There's 4 things they're born. They're either going to have these things or they're never going to do them. One is tantrums. One is running. They take off on you, don't even look behind. So they have no fear. The other one's climbing. They're kind of related, but they don't always do both of them. And the last one is aggressiveness. They're either going to hit or they're never going to hit. It's just something they're born to do. So tantrums is one of those things. My son had them. My daughter never did. I've never had one. Anyway, so my son had a tantrum in the mall. It was his, I think his second to last tantrum. He was 3 years old. And we were just walking through the mall, going to the parking lot. No big deal. We hadn't left anywhere he liked. I don't even know why he did it. Anyway, threw himself on the ground and had a tantrum. So I pulled him over to the store window because it was a very loud, crowded mall. So I wasn't disturbing anyone. And so he's just having this tantrum. And I pull up my nail file and I'm just like this and going like this. And I'm just waiting for the tantrum to be over. I don't look at him or talk to him. But it's, you don't go on your phone or anything, but I got a nail file. So I'm just going like this and I'm waiting. He already knew. He knew Mom by this point. So anyway, I'm just filing my nails. The funny part is people were coming up to me. And I guess because it was kind of a scene, I'm standing there filing my nails. So I guess people felt free to come up to me. These new, young, inexperienced moms were coming up to me saying, oh, you should talk to him about his feelings and give him a hug and all this garbage. And I'm like, oh, keep going, keep going. It would be like taking advice from someone who just has little kids is like taking financial advice from someone with $10 in the bank. How do they know? Like, they just didn't know anything. And obviously I didn't have any experience with kids. So I said, yeah, keep going, keep going. So anyway, but these grandmothers and moms with older kids kept coming up to me saying, you know what you're doing. I'm like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Anyway, the tantrum didn't last long because he knew me. So anyway, as soon as he was finished with the tantrum, I said, oh, you all done? Okay, let's go. And off we walked. No big deal. He only had one more tantrum after that. I think he had more with his dad, but I was more the leader, so that's why. But yeah, that's it. He was learning. When you get good at this sort of ignoring, but in a certain way of doing it, when you get good at this, the tantrums will diminish in duration, frequency, and intensity because they're not working. By the age of 3 3/4 to 4, at that age, they tend to only do what works. If your child's still having tantrums at work at 5, then you might want to look into that. Look at the tantrum course. It explains that. But I've kind of already explained it. Someone said, I'm going to read this out. You know, I love this stuff. Guys, the funny thing is sometimes other people have good advice, ignoring others being better than knowing others being better. I don't know. Is that the young mums? Yeah, they didn't know what they were talking about. I could tell. Sometimes people do have good advice. I just happen to be good at all this stuff. Everything else, I'm very open to learning. This just happens to be my area. I know how to get respect with kids. I know how to raise kids, confident kids. I know how to bond with kids. This is my area. Everything else, oh, I'm pretty good at working out at fitness. That's about it. So, yeah. We all have a lane. Isn't there something you're really confident about that you know works, that you're good at? This just happens to be my lane. But yeah. Is 2 too young for timeout? I hate timeout. I wouldn't do it with any age. Can't stand it. I think it's mean. I think it's really nasty. You go over there, you're not even worth talking to. You know, they're not learning anything. You know what they're doing when they're sitting in the corner, sitting in timeout? They're just feeling like crap about themselves. There's no lesson in it. It's just awful. So yeah, I'd never do timeout. I hate it. I hate timeout. I hate diversion. And I hate the countdown. Those are 3 things I hate. They're common, but I can't stand any of them. Diversion is when they're doing something naughty and you divert them with something, because you never do it with broccoli. You always do it with, here's a candy, so you're rewarding that bad behavior. And the countdown is they're doing something bad, and you say, by the time I count to 3, you better stop. So in other words, it's okay to pound your little sister for 3 counts, and then there's no punishment afterwards. So yeah, they're horrible. Timeout's horrible. It's the least of them, though. Diversion's the second worst, and then the worst is the countdown. It's like it's okay to be rotten in the short term, just not in the long term. And then there won't be any consequence or punishment for it anyway. No lesson learned at all. How do I access your training? There's a link above. Everything's in the link above. It's just one link. It's got my free behavior board, my mini toddler courses, my big boot camp course, and my coaching. It's all there. That's all I've got. Not in life, but in my business. I don't know why I thought that was funny. Oh, God. Yeah, timeout's really common. It's a real, okay, think about it this way. Let's say you make a mistake at work and your boss says, go sit in a corner for, you're 36 years old, you go sit in a corner for 36 minutes. How would that make you feel? Would it make you better at your job? Probably not. Would it make you feel better? Probably not. Would it make you feel like crap? Probably. Would it make you hate your boss? Probably. Would it make you just feel like you want to quit and leave? Probably. Think about it. Well, if your boss said, well, that was stupid. I did the same thing when I started learning how to do this. Okay, here's what you do. See the difference? Where's the lesson in timeout? Where is it? I can't find it. I've never found it. I've never done it. Never will. Hate it. I just think it's humiliating. But if you don't have experience, it would seem like a good thing to do, right? Like I can understand why people would think that would be a good thing to do. I actually can understand why people think that would be a good thing to do, but I hate it. Okay, how often do you change the rules consequences on the behavior board? You never do. You have one behavior board that stays forever. Then you have a second one the second week that stays forever. Then you have a third one the third week. You never go past that. You can only have 3 behavior boards. In the boot camp course, it explains what you do in week 4. That's when you do in the moment discipline. You don't use behavior boards. The behavior boards are just there to teach you how to discipline and how to be accountable yourself, because you're on there too. So it teaches accountability to everybody, but you're in charge of it all. But it teaches you how to be accountable to your kids and how them to respect you. So you're respecting them to get respect. That's all it's teaching you. Once you finish those 3 weeks, then you do in the moment discipline. Everyone who looks at that the boot camp course, they all want week 4. Week 4, like I never used a behavior board. They're a teaching tool to teach you how to do this. That's all it is. So first week you have 1 rule. The second week now you got 2 rules. Third week now you got 3 rules. And then you can still keep those up, but then everything else that comes up, you do in the moment discipline. It's like, hey, I didn't like what you just did. I'll tell you what we're going to do. You're going to help me clean the dishes after dinner tonight. Do you understand? Okay. And then later on, if they don't do it, say, like, you didn't help me clean the dishes. So then you've got no TV tonight. Do you understand? And that's it. Make it happen. Never be afraid of a scene. Every fit, scene, and tantrum has a lesson behind it. If you're trying to prevent them or stop the scenes or just avoid them completely, you're missing an opportunity. Every single fit, scene, or a tantrum is a lesson. It's an opportunity for you to exercise your leadership. Their fit, scenes, and tantrums are them not getting their own way when they shouldn't get their own way. Do you really want them to not learn that lesson? Of course not. You want them to learn the lesson. I used to say to my kids, if you're good, life is good. If you're bad, life ain't so good. I'll make sure of it because I'm your mom and that's my job. So they never did anything. They were easy. Everything was their choice. You can choose to not do your homework. You have to deal with me afterwards, though. It's your choice. And my son hated that. He hated that. I know it's my choice, Mom. You don't have to keep telling me it's my choice. So I empowered them. Everything they did was their choice. If they got disciplined, it was their choice to be disciplined because they made the bad choice. You get it? It's all up to them. I taught them that. Okay. How about diverting with an activity? Okay. The only time I ever use diversion is with a baby. 15 months and under to me is a baby. If they're doing something you don't like, let's say they're hitting with a toy. So you say no, and you take the toy away and put it away. Then they're crying, they're having a fit. They don't know how to deal with it. They're still just a baby. So this is what I do. I would take their favorite book and I would read it out loud to myself. I'd just sit nearby. Oh, and the fox jumped over there. Ooh, what happened next? Don't look at them or talk to them. Ooh, and then the fox went over there. Or you can sing their favorite song just to yourself like an idiot in the corner. The idea is they'll just come over and crawl into your lap and that'll be the end of it. Okay? That's the only time I would use diversion. Is at that age. But even that, it's indirect diversion. It's not over here, look at this. It's just, I happen to be over here doing something I think they'd like. I might sit and play with their blocks, but always act animated, like, oh, and the block goes over here. Oh, wow. So that it's indirect diversion. But I wouldn't use that as they get older. You don't want to do that. I wouldn't do it. Because you want them to learn how to get themselves out of a mess, out of an emotional mess. If you don't allow them to learn how to process that in their own brain, if you interrupt it with diversion as they're getting older and toddlers and that, then you're interrupting their learning how to get them. They need to learn how to get into a tantrum, how to maintain it, and how to get out of it. And by ignoring it effectively, they're learning how to get out of it a lot faster than if you interrupt. It's a whole process their brain has to go through. Don't interrupt that process. or they're never going to learn how to end their own tantrums. And then eventually they won't even go in, they won't even have them anymore. I think my son, his last tantrum was probably about 3.5. And then he had one, he was quite a bit older, like 6 or 7. And he was going to have, I could see it, he was going to have one. And I said, and I always said, there's nothing wrong with being angry. Everyone's allowed to be angry, but don't drag us into it. Go into your room and cry and scream into a pillow. I think he did. He tried it and it sounded ridiculous and he never did it again. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with being angry. It's how they deal with it. Tantrum is public. How do you navigate them calmly and get them to calm down? You don't get them to calm down. They learn some public tantrums. I go into that in my tantrum course. If you're interested in that, you might want to check that out. It's one of my mini toddler courses in the link. And I think I called it supermarket tantrums or public tantrums, something like that. But yeah, if you're a different parent when you're out, then they're not learning anything. They're going to play you. So yeah, you have to be the same. I just told the mall story with my son in a public tantrum. The only reason that I'm exactly the same when I'm out, my kids knew I was the exact same mother everywhere I went, but I would never allow a tantrum to disturb people in a restaurant or a church or anything quiet like that. I would take them out to the car or in a parking lot and then let them have the tantrum and ignore them there. So I would move them. I still wouldn't talk to them or look at them though. I would just pick them up and move them and then let them have the tantrum somewhere else. So yeah, public tantrums. I was proud of how I was handling this. So it was like, come on, audience, please. Like, I liked it. I liked people watching what I was doing because I knew what I was doing. So if you're afraid of it, the kids pick up on it and they're going to be worse when you go out. If they know that you're going to be a weaker parent and not a leader when you go out, they're going to be worse when you go out. How to deal with explosive anger in a 3-year-old. So they just feisty kids. Yeah, check out my boot camp course. That might be good for you. It teaches you how to be a leader, and then nothing's explosive with kids because their emotions tend to calm down. When they've got a calm leader as a parent and you're a fun playmate, like a fun friend, but you're a very calm leader when you're disciplining, it tends to calm them down. And often people will say, well, they were just really easy when they were toddlers. Then when they were 3, they just turned into a feral beast. And I say, well, that's when things really go like this. If you're a leader when they're toddlers, they're starting to learn. They're not going to follow quite yet, but when they turn 3, they start to follow and they get easier and easier at 3. If you're not a leader, they get worse. They find their power because you're not a leader, they take over. So there's a fork in the road at 3 years old. They're either going to get easier if you're a leader. If you're not a leader, they're going to get worse because they go, hey, you don't know what you're doing. I'm going to take charge now. They don't actually think that way, but actually they probably do. It's kind of like that. You can just about see it. I've just observed hundreds of kids over the years, and I've watched them. When I've watched them try to push their mom around or something at a shopping center, and I'll be watching. I'll just be pretending I'm reading a label, and I'll be watching, and the little kid will just be working that parent, like they just know what they're doing. 14-month-old triplets here. What do we do in timeout? Well, I hate timeout, and 14 months old, it's not a time, like you don't do anything like that anyway. It's 14 months old. They're still babies till they're about 15 months old. It's almost right then, 15 months old. So yeah, I don't quite know what they're doing. So I can't tell you. I'd have to know what they're doing before I could give you any advice. Okay, my little girl is 3 and does not understand the word no. You're wrong. She absolutely understands it. She's just not listening to it. So set yourself up as a leader, and you lead, they will follow. But 3 to 12 is my boot camp course. If you want to check that out, it teaches you how to be a leader. You lead, they will follow. They instinctively, naturally are looking for leaders. If you're not a leader, they're going to be very vulnerable out there in the world. They're going to be looking for leadership somewhere else. They're going to be very susceptible to bullying, peer pressure, the drug dealer on the corner, the internet, the Kardashians. They're going to be extremely vulnerable. When you're a leader at home, it protects them from all that stuff because they're going to come home and tell you everything and you're going to be the leader. So yeah, she does understand the word no. She just doesn't respect you, so she's not listening to it. Of course she understands the word no. She's just not listening to it. So work on your leadership skills. It's never them. We don't fix kids here. We're teaching parents. Kids don't come with instruction manuals. That's what I'm here for. You know how many decades I've put into this? 52 years I've been working with kids now. 52 years trying to figure this out. Just because I found it fascinating. I only turned it into a business 17 years ago. I was volunteering for all those years, decades. I started volunteering in daycare centers when I was 11. I always found kids fascinating. And I found them quite easy to get respect. I just found them fascinating. I love mothering and I'm very maternal. So I was 11, volunteering. Wait, what kid does that? 11 years old, volunteering in a daycare center. I also started babysitting at 11. So yeah, I was just like the mother. I just loved trying to figure kids out. So yeah, you don't have to figure all this out. Just check out my information. It's all there. The boot camp course is kind of, that sort of goes through a whole bunch of different stuff, because 3 to 12 years old, you can just imagine the difference in what they go through. But you're the same kind of parent. That's when you're at the height of your leadership. They want to please you from 3 to 12 years old. When you're a good leader, they want to please you. You don't want teenagers to live to please you. That's ridiculous. You want them to be their own leaders, but you're there for backup when needed. It's very important to transition into those teen years. A lot of parents, teens are actually really easy to deal with. It's just parents don't know how to get respect with teenagers. They don't know how to back off. They don't know when to go in and when to go out. That's the hard part. And I know parents get really frustrated with me when they hire me for coaching when they've got troubled teenagers, because they want to deal with the bad behavior. And I say, well, we don't do that in the first week. I won't go into it here, but yeah, we got to connect. We got to get you connected first. You got to connect with them and we've got to increase the communication skills. We've got to work on the respect before we can even begin to deal with the bad behavior. So it usually takes a week or two. That's my favorite age, teenagers. Okay, this is from Morgan. I've been using some of your strategies and my kids listen to me much better now. See, now I've just given you the ideas, the tools, but you've actually done it. So pat yourself on the back. Like, it's hard work, isn't it? But isn't it worth it? Short-term pain for long-term gain. Usually gets worse before it gets better, because they remember the old you. And they are going to fight to keep it because they've been in charge. Funny thing is, they don't want to be in charge, but they still like to challenge you to make sure you are. It's just the way it is. So, yeah. My son is in the terrible twos. It's awful. Yeah, they're nuts. There's not much I can tell you about it. They're just crazy. So, because they haven't developed sanity yet. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed. They're all feet, no brains. Cute as a button, but they're all feet, no brains. So, yeah. Temporary. A lot of parents of teenagers, when they hire me, they say, I thought the toddler years was tough, but now they wish they'd enjoy the toddler years more, because now they got teenagers in there. And I mean, I actually love the teenagers. It was probably my favorite age, but I knew how to get respect with teenagers. But if you don't, it'll be hell. The teenagers are emotional hell. Toddlers are physical hell, if they're going to be hell at all. But you know what I'm saying? They're just different, but they're both challenging. And it's just your lack of understanding with it, because you're trying to make sense out of a toddler. That's impossible. And teenagers, you're trying to control them. That's impossible. You teach them how to control themselves through your respect and your friendship with them. You're still the leader, though. But you don't use that very often. You got to be really careful with that. Use it very sparingly. Oh, you're going to hate my answer. How do you keep a 12-year-old girl to be positive about herself? You'd almost have to hire me with that, because I'm wondering what you're struggling with. I'd have to figure that out. It's tricky. What's she going through? Is she heading towards an eating disorder, or is she going to self-harm? Or, I mean, what are you worried about? Or nothing? Or you just, I don't know. I need to ask too many questions, because when you said if a 12-year-old girl is feeling bad about herself, she's almost a teenager at that point. So yeah, I don't know what you're dealing with. So I can't really answer that. Anyway, I got to get going. My voice is starting to go. So thanks so much for joining me. My name's Lisa. I'm a parenting coach. That's all I do here. And if you check out the link above, you can get my free behavior board, or you can check out my toddler courses, or you can get my boot camp course for 3 to 12 years old, or you can hire me for coaching. That's for I don't have a teenage course. I have nothing for teenagers except coaching. The reason I haven't done a course on teenagers is because I used to specialize in teen crisis work. So whenever I think teenager, I think crisis, but that's not what most people are up against. I could just do a general teenage course. If you're in crisis, you'd have to hire me anyway for coaching. But maybe one day I'll come up with a teenage course. But anyway, If you got a teenager and you want my help, you'd have to hire me for coaching. That's all done on Zoom, so it doesn't matter where you live. You just need to speak English because I don't speak any other languages. So I wish I did. I can barely handle one. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me. Happy parenting. Bye now.